something that says mute, what I would ask. Right now, I'm not getting any feedback, which is great, but I'm going to ask folks just to mute themselves while we're going through if you're not speaking, just so that we don't end up with echo by accident. So again, just if you see the little button, looks like a microphone, click it and we won't be able to hear you. At any point, just unmute yourself and start talking if you need to. So with that said, again, 6:03, calling the meeting to order. There we go. We are live streaming, which is great. Thank you if anybody's actually watching, and to Andrew for helping set this up. Quick call to order. Looking around the virtual table, it appears we have everybody except Ed. So we have Bob, Chris, Dan, Dana, Rachel. Let's see who else am I missing here. Thank you, Joe, for joining us, and thank you, Chris, also for joining us, and Sarah. So Ed is the only one that is missing at the moment, and I don't see him on our particular our participant log. So,
Ed is away, Stu.
Gotcha. Yeah, he put tentative, so which is fine. Appreciated that. I will just put a note that we have a meeting in, I think it's another week or so, 2 weeks. I did want to have this meeting and then also have that one, because with summer camp issues being so prevalent right at the moment, I think it's something that we may need to have that meeting to be able to vote on it. So I want to keep it on the calendar. And if for some reason we don't have any new action items, I'll be happy to table it till the following month. But at the moment it's on the calendar. I'd like to keep it there. I hope that works for everybody. So we'll follow up after this particular meeting. Right. Is somebody speaking? I'm getting an echo, it sounds like. Nope. Maybe it's just ghosts. All right. Dana, do you mind doing just a quick recap on the minutes, if there's anything in particular, and then calling for a motion to adopt?
Okay, hold on. Let me go back to the beginning. All right, so we had Bob Martin come and talk to us about resurrecting the celebration of Tiverton Days. And we referred him to Joan Shabbat and Barbara Pelletier. And then we spoke to Gary Doster from the Men's Softball League that uses Bogomarsh. And basically we made a motion to approve the facility use from May 1st to October 31st from 6 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. with the stipulation that they do a walkthrough at the end of their season with DPW. That was unanimously approved. Then we had a request from Sakonnet Tigers, and we tabled that until we got more information. There was a unanimous vote on that as well. Then we had Tiverton Little League. We approved their request for their field usage per their form with the amendment that they changed their Thursday request to Saturdays. Again, with the stipulation that they have to do a DPW walkthrough at the end of the season. That was unanimous as well. Tiverton Youth Soccer, we approved their request as requested with stipulation, again, with the DPW walkthrough. Then we discussed Fogland Point Stormwater Project. And basically that's a project that's gonna do stormwater mitigation, dune restoration, roads, marsh restoration, and there's possible of a DEM grant. So we all approved a request that Stu, I believe it was Stu, that was the only one thing I guessed on there, would send a letter into the Eastern Rhode Island Conservation District in support of that grant. And then we reviewed the treasurer's report. Rachel pretty much reviewed that with all of us, July 1st to the current date. And we reviewed accounts that need money and possible accounts that have surplus money. So there was no vote on anything there. And then we spoke with Sarah on the recreation coordinator report, and she had reached out to previous employees to see if they wanted to reapply for any positions. We talked about we need a summer camp director, and we need to set up the flyer for the summer programs. And again, a possible restricted, setting up a possible restricted account for beach money. And also that the police will certify the gate attendants for CPR training. No votes were taken on any of that. There was nothing in the events. The program report was pretty much the rec coordinator report. The partner project report was Town Farm. We'll be waiting for on the grant to see if it was approved at that point, right? Yay, Stu, for getting that approved. And then the dog part, where they're just trying to still get that going. And then we had a motion to adjourn at 8:26.
Awesome. Dana, awesome job. Thank you. I'm a horrible note taker, so I'm always in awe of people that do it well. So thank you. All right. At this time, could I get a motion to accept the minutes? Do it by show of hand. I see Bob. We have a motion from Bob. Could I get a second? Rachel's giving a second. All in favor, please raise your hand. We can do this visually. All right, Chris, I can't see your hand. I don't know if you can put a little higher. Just to...
I wasn't at the meeting.
Oh, then don't worry about it. Excellent. Thank you. All right, so minutes are adopted. Just one note on those for Tiverton Little League in particular. They announced today that they are not holding their season. So we're not going to have to account for them having use of the fields, but they did announce that they may try to look into it in the fall. So I'll speak with Dave Paul about potentially modifying their request for fall ball, but they did post that today that they're not going to be running Little League this summer. So thank you again, Dana. All right, Rachel, anything in particular to report?
There's not been a lot of activity in the accounts. Can you hear me, Stu?
Yes.
Yes, okay. The only real significant thing is a payment out to Manchester for the Christmas tree lights. That went out, and of course our ongoing rec director payments and a few payments out for turf management. Sarah, I was copied on an email that included you from Deb Tarrant, where DPW is responsible now for all of our field rehabilitation and maintenance accounts. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Are you able to hear me, Sarah? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And Sarah, I haven't seen any transfers. We talked about some accounts needing to have transferred to likely make it to the end of this fiscal year.
Yes. So I transferred the transportation account to the supply account, and I received the budget today that it went through. So I don't know when the last time.
Okay, I'm sorry. They did that. It looks like they did that retroactive from they posted that prior to when we actually made the transfer, I guess. So I'm just looking, the date of that is February 1st, and you and I had discussed that in March. So I'm sorry, I missed that. I just see that on here now. It's dated back further.
Okay, yeah, so I just did that for now,
that's-
and then I figure once the season gets going, if we need to transfer stuff for the beach salaries, which I think we will, especially at the beginning, then we can do that, because there's money for the camp salaries, which we won't need this fiscal year. So I think we'll be able to transfer that to help if we need it for the beaches.
That would be on next year's fiscal year budget, not this year's.
No, we still have money from, we're gonna need to pay beach salaries this fiscal year.
Yes.
Because it goes till July 1st or June 30th. And I don't think we're gonna have enough money to get us through. But we have money left over from the camp salaries from last year, or I guess you could say this year. But I'm gonna wait until we need it.
Okay, and I'm sorry, you said you did put in the request to move what was the balance in the transportation?
Transportation was moved to the supply account for this beaches.
Okay, I see that. Thank you. Okay, we should be in good shape. I hope to get through. We'll see what the season brings. But not a lot of significant activity. I did find those transfers. Thank you.
And speaking about the budget, I did ask about that account too, and I haven't gotten an answer. So the restricted account.
So let's see if we can narrow that down in the next couple of weeks and find out what's there. I think as we dive into this conversation, we're gonna have to look at what it's on the agenda here as it pertains to beach staffing and also to the summer camp programming. But I think there may be some things coming down the pike that could potentially impact where we're spending and when we're spending our money. So
Yep.
or our budget, I should say. So we'll talk through that. Thank you, Rachel. So we're at the point where sort of discussing the viability of summer camp programming. Chris, I don't mean to necessarily put you on the spot, but you've had better connections with the DEM, so I'm kind of gonna. Can you give any insight as to what you're hearing?
So the guidance that we're getting now, or have been for the last couple of weeks, is that they're not recommending summer camps at the moment. That actually was a topic of today's discussion as well. They're limiting anything in excess of 50 people. So, and if we're doing our camps at Pecasset and we have over 100 kids, it would be almost impractical to have it. It would be difficult for the instructors as well as the children. So I'm not sure at this point that we would consider moving forward with that until we get better guidance. Now, they are saying that this rollout, this phasing of opening up Rhode Island will go through 3 phases. We believe the first phase will take us through the middle of June. Second phase will take us probably to the middle of July. And they were saying that the limitation will be still at 50 through phase 2. So they've been recommending that, you know, wedding parties and funerals and things like that are going to be capped at 50. So it is going to make it very difficult to run that kind of a program. You're muted.
Got it. Sorry, of course I have it. Could you foresee any situation under which that we could run a reduced program later on in the year? So my question being here, instead of having it be open, there are capacities on camp enrollment, and that's total as well as sections, and they're divided up into locations. So there's not more than, say, 20 at a location. And we do, you know, mornings, afternoons, we mix it. Again, getting a little bit creative, but
That might be more viable, but we'd have to put a plan together and probably run it through DOH to make sure that they'd be agreeable to it. I know that we've asked them, a number of cities and towns have asked them about events that are critical, such as financial town referendums, financial town meetings, public hearings, planning board issues, and they are being very, very strict about it. So we were looking even for our town referendum, the public hearing aspect of it. We usually have, you know, maybe 30 to 50 people that attend that. I know it's not as popular as the financial town meeting used to be, but because of the referendum, people just come and vote. But the hearing part, you don't really get that many people show up. So we're concerned about having that at the moment, and we're trying to find a methodology to actually get that in. But if it's over 50 people, we're gonna have difficulty.
I do want to open it up to the group. I will just offer one other data point that I reached out to Andrew Wade in Jamestown, who's been very helpful with the grant writing process, and he runs Parks and Rec down there, and asked him if he had heard anything or what their status was. And he said, really comes down to what the state dictates. So it sounds like there's a very similar message for all recreation directors in the state. A little bit of wait and see, but not a ton of optimism.
Well, I think your biggest issue is parents trying to plan.
Thoughts from the group? Anybody who's interested, please.
I have a question. So could we possibly have a program too, where we just we capped it at, say, 40 kids? And the way the program has typically run in the past, not all the kids show up on this at the same time. Very rarely does that happen. So if it's under the 50, could we still go ahead with a program as usual, where we did the 9:30 to 2:30, just to get some kids out of the house? And would they have to, if they're outside, would they have to wear masks unless they're more than 6 feet away? I mean, could we do something like that?
So let's put a plan together, and, you know, and I can run it by DOH. I mean, that's probably the best thing we could do.
So I will offer, there's an organization called the Aspen Institute that does a lot with sports and youth sports. And they just released, I think yesterday or today, their return to play guidelines, which are specific to sports. I think there's something we can look at. What I would advocate for at this particular time is that perhaps we see what we could potentially put together as a plan and get it to Chris to get to the DOH between now and our next meeting, and see if we can get any feedback on whether it's feasible. My personal take is that it probably would have to be a reduced length program anyway, just into that phase 2 stage. But if we can do it, I'd rather support the kids in town and give them something if we can safely.
No, I agree.
Chris, if I can ask just another question based on the financial climate, do you see, because the program we've been running is not one that's a break even or a revenue generator, do you see that playing into any role into whether we decide to run a program or not, or should consider running a program or not?
So I'm going to give you a little bit of a complicated answer on that. It depends on what fiscal year you're going to run it out of. This fiscal year, between now and June, we get some big problems. We're working our way through them. We do hear there may be some issues that might help mitigate the issue. But we still have one huge piece of revenue that we don't have an answer on yet. So we have cut back on every discretionary piece of spending that we have right now, that unless it's critical or absolutely needed, we're not spending it. We've got a huge shortfall right now, and we're trying to work our way through it. Next fiscal year is a different story altogether. It may be that on a more limited basis that we could come up with a program for that, but it would depend on what the expenditure projection would look like for that program. I mean, we're as every city in town is, we're in pretty tough shape right now because we don't know where the state's going. We suspect that the state is looking more at the federal monies coming in and getting relief on how to spend it. It is so restrictive on what they can spend it for right now that there's no relief at all for lost revenues. But if we get one, and every other state of our size gets $1.2 billion and we can only spend 300 million of it, it's kind of ludicrous to send it back. So they're working with the federal delegation now to try to get some relief into it, so that we could expend those on some of the shortages that we have. And that would be helpful. And there is another CARES Act that's coming out through the Senate and House. It's iteration 4. We just don't know when it's coming or what the restrictions are going to be on that as well.
Got it. Thank you. Any questions or comments for Chris or just about this topic?
I just wanted to mention, we would also need to look for somebody to run the camp too. That's another added complication because we lost our person running the day camp, right?
Yeah, so we did post that position and we haven't gotten any resumes. And I think that's partially because there's so much questions about if camps are going to run.
Right.
But I mean, if you want, I can come up with a plan with like what Dana was saying with like the 40 kids and kind of look at the cost and do all that. And then we can, from there, like after we talk to the Department of Health, then go back into looking for a camp director.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, as long as you get some resumes going, that's actually good because it's a start, whether this thing goes down or not, at least you've got something, prepared. Should we come up with something? Because it would be nice to support the kids, but it's also the safety is a big deal.
Right.
I'm dealing with that in my work with, we're trying to bring back people and it's really, really difficult right now. We're not sure how to do it and super complex.
It is.
Should we repost the position now or wait until we go through with a plan?
So I would probably put the plan together first.
Okay.
Try to get tentative approval from DOH and then post. But I don't know what age group you're looking for as far as instructors go and what the criteria is for those instructors. Are there, and what age group that you're trying to target to?
I think the person to run the camp probably needs to be an adult.
Yep.
Like out of college. Maybe I was thinking that the best thing would probably be to have a teacher, someone who's off in the summer and is used to working with kids and running things like that. And then other counselors are usually kids in like maybe like junior, senior high school or college.
Dan would fit right in. He's a principal. I would volunteer to help anybody that needs it, that takes it and needs to get started. I'd volunteer. I have a lot of free time now, so I'd volunteer to help out.
I can help too. I haven't worked with kids in 2 months. I miss them.
Me too. I can definitely help. And we'll probably have a number of teachers that, well, not a lot, but a good amount that would be interested. They've already reached out asking for programming in and around this area for the summer. So sure, I can help.
Yeah, Sarah, it might be after giving it a review, it might be worth trying to circulate it to some of the schools exactly as Dan's talking about, because it's, I think we all agree teachers are probably the best avenue. And so this year in particular, we're also going to have to look at what potential training is that person going to need to have, as well as what are they going to have to implement for their staff to account for COVID safety measures. And so what does that look like for sanitizing equipment, safety drop-off procedures, communication. I have a lot of that stuff I could probably contribute as a starting point, but I think it's very interesting to see what DOH also recommends. So,
I don't know if this would be something we could do if we even got more than one person who wants to be the director, to be a camp director. Say we kept the numbers lower because, you know, last year we had like what, 90 kids. Say we did get a lot of kids that do want to participate in the program. Could we have it at 2 different locations, like maybe Pecasset and Town Farm, or Pecasset and Bogomarsh, or something like that? Because when years ago they used to have multiple camps throughout the town, not just one location. So if we did get a lot, I think maybe that's something we could put on a back burner if we needed to.
So the venues that you use, I'm assuming you use Pecasset because you can utilize the school for the restrooms and things like that. Whereas if you did Bogomarsh, you might not be able to do that, or Town Farm. So
I think at Pecasset, they only use the school if it rains. And they have a porta potty for the restroom. So you could do that. And then if it rains, we'd have to figure out something else.
I mean, as an alternate location, if we did recreation, maybe we could set something up with Sandy Woods that if it rained, they could go into that building. This is a big if, you know.
Yeah, sort of uncertainty all the way around. So, right. So let's take some time over the next couple of weeks and look at it and see what we can come up with. Sarah, I can connect with you on some of the base stuff, and let's take a look at the job description just so we have it ready to go when if we decide to flip the switch. And again, I think our meeting in the next couple of weeks is probably that linchpin for what we decide to do.
What's the date for that next meeting?
I knew someone was going to ask.
the 20th?
I think so. Yeah, I think you're probably right. That sounds right. So 14 days away, so 2 weeks.
Okay.
Enough time to get some stuff done. Cool. All right. Any other questions, comments, thoughts on summer camp? Dana, you're on mute if you're talking. Okay, wait.
Unmuted.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
I hit something and it completely disappeared. What about like the baseball and those type of camps? Do we think we should just kibosh those to begin with and just concentrate on our town one?
Right. So I think my personal take is that there are enough moving parts with our particular camp that it may be difficult for us to try and run or be involved with secondary ones. However, I do think we can canvass the network and say, what are you doing? What are you offering? And then we make the distinction as to whether we feel comfortable including that. I think my only hesitation comes to, we will know what safety procedures we put in place if we are running our camps. If we are promoting a camp that is not ours and something transpires, I would have questions about if there's any liability on our part. Not to say that we don't, they don't run great camps, I just don't know. So maybe we get our ducks in a row and then kind of spread the net a little bit wider from there. I'm going to assume there's agreement because the silence is overwhelming. It's the joy of Zoom calls. All right.
Agreed.
So next piece up on this is the discussion regarding the beach staffing and the pass recommendation. So I think sort of working in that particular order, Sarah, do you want to give an update just sort of on where we are with beach staffing?
Yes, so we have 5 lifeguards who have applied. One of the applications just made it to the personnel board, so I don't think it's been like officially approved yet. And then I think we have like 10 gate attendants who have applied, and all of those have been approved by the personnel board already, except for one that just was sent to me yesterday. And I believe it might be Chief Jones's nephew. I think he tried to apply last year and then never, but the kid's last name is Jones. And I remember last year they were saying that his nephew was applying, and most of them are rehires. So they've all kind of been through everything already. I haven't contacted the kids yet because we still don't really know. I've been talking to the rehires. Like they've been texting me, like making sure I have their applications and everything, and they're all on board to start whenever we can. But I haven't like officially hired anyone because we don't really know exactly what that's going to look like yet. So I wanted to kind of just wait and see until we get a little bit more information, but I can contact them whenever we're ready for that.
Bob, hold on.
We
Go ahead,
don't, oh,
You're good. Go ahead.
I'm good. The thing is, though, we don't want to take a chance in losing these lifeguards to other cities or towns around the area. I mean, we know the beaches will be opening. We just don't know when. Do you think we could, is there any way to lock them in?
Yeah, and
So
the
we don't lose
lifeguards are all rehires. So like I've been in contact with them and they know that I was having this meeting today.
Okay.
So I just told them I was going to try to get more information and then I would be in contact with them. But I mean, I would guess that all Rhode Island beaches are going to open probably the same date, whenever they can open.
That's the theory.
Yeah.
Right? So I mean,
I think there's gonna be a lot of restrictions, though. I don't think they're gonna be open and free like they used to be.
no, I don't think so either, but we'll still need lifeguards. I think the gate attendants are going to have more work, kind of like restricting maybe like the amount of people instead of just the amount of cars. But like I said, we don't really know.
We're gonna need some maintenance issues too, because the cleaning of the restrooms are gonna be paramount. They're gonna have to be done far more often than what they're currently being, what they were used to being done.
And that probably won't be able to really be done by the kids, right? Because it's going to have to be like a professional
So,
cleaning.
yeah,
type
we will probably have to do something different.
Okay.
Would
But
that still,
As
sorry,
far
would that
as
still come
talking,
through the rec budget?
do
For
you
the
file
addition-
paperwork for them, or is it, do they have to like come in, do their I-9s, their W-4s, or?
Well, I think the rehires don't have to do that paperwork,
Okay,
if I remember correctly from last year.
so can you?
There
check
are
with
some
Mary?
new kids who will have to do those forms, but we can probably, I don't really know how they would do that.
So can you talk with Mary Lou
Yeah,
about the hiring process, and as long as we get their paperwork, and it's just a matter of a start date that we would, that we're gonna wind up having, until we get better guidance, we don't have a start date yet.
right.
We can't,
The be-
we can't open before anybody else does.
Exactly. And the beginning of the beach season anyway was only weekends.
Right.
So I'm guessing we would keep it that way.
I believe that's the way it's gonna be in, all across the state as well.
Okay, yeah, because we did that. We did only weekends until like the end of June.
Till school.
Usually
ends.
until the kids get out of school.
Now they're out,
um,
so you can do it anytime.
Yeah, but I'll talk to Mary Lou to see like how we can do it, because I know last year the kids went to town hall, but we
Okay,
can't do that. So, but I'll email Mary Lou.
well, we could schedule them in by appointment, so that,
Okay,
but we wouldn't take them as a group. We would probably have to schedule them in so they're not here all at once.
okay, I'll call Mary Lou tomorrow or email her. Is she in the office? Like, can I call her?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you do the interviews over Zoom?
Yeah, I could do that.
That's how
If
the
they fill
personnel.
out their
people do it.
forms, they'll have to go in.
Yeah, just trying to think of what's easy. So it sounds like we don't know the start dates. We don't know when things are going to open. We're not quite sure on the structure for how we need to clean things. But on the plus side, we're in the same boat as every other town in the state. So there's
Well,
that.
in Mass too, because we're trying to coordinate it so it's done at the same time.
Copy.
Two things to say on cleaning. Maybe we get some prices from an outside vendor now, while things are where they are for the bathrooms. And I know we discussed last year about getting some of the students to go down there and use their community service hours, get them shirts, and say Tiverton Rec or Beach Committee, and just have them help them clean the beaches and just patrol and give them some hours during the summer and give them some shirts. Maybe a small stipend or something like that. And now would probably be a good time to put that together if we wanted to get a few kids on the community service to help out.
Have you gone through the school system before to kind of get kids who had like community service issues or?
We haven't done it for the beaches, but we've done it for other events numerous times. The Christmas tree lightings and all things like that. We always get community service. But this would be more like for the whole summer, and they could probably lock in all their hours. And
Yep.
if you get 20 kids and they all get their shirts and they put in maybe 20 or 30 hours over the summer, it just helps keep the beaches clean. And it's also the presence of more people on the beach that look sort of official but aren't police.
Okay.
It's kind of nice.
Dana, you've connected with folks about that before. I think you were sort of instrumental in us with a trunk or treat piece. Do you think maybe you could kind of test it out and see if there's an opportunity to act on what Chris is talking about? I think it makes a lot of
Sure,
sense.
no problem. I can email. For the middle school, it's Rachel Mata, and for the high school, it's Matt McGuire. So I can just shoot both of them an email and ask them if this is something that they could help us with. And I'm sure they both have a list of names, or they can put out a blast to certain grades and see who signs up that way too.
Yeah. And then Sarah,
Sarah, I know. I was gonna say, Sarah, you also wanted to get shirts just for the kids in general. And I know it's like a small detail now, but it's something we could probably order now if we come up with a design. And, if there's not enough money in the budget, I'd volunteer to get those shirts. I get some for work a lot.
Yeah, that was one thing we talked about. Stu, I don't know, did we include that in the budget? As one of the things?
Yep.
Yeah, so.
yeah,
That'd be cool. Yeah. So I think we'll come up with a design and maybe we get something for next meeting. We can order them and that way we'd have them for June.
Yeah.
Then they look official.
Right.
yeah. Most of the stuff that came as a result of the American Red Cross review of the beaches, I think the budget committee kept in what they accepted from us as part of the budgeting process. The only things that didn't stay in there were, for example, the online summer camp registration. There were a few others, but the things that were seen that showed us being out of compliant, uniforms being one, did end up being retained in there. And I unfortunately kind of lashed at it, Mr. Joe Perry here, because I thought he was responsible for cutting stuff. It wasn't him. I apologize later, but now we got a lot of the stuff we needed into it. So cool.
I'm used to getting blamed for things that I don't do. Just ask my wife, she'll tell you. Right, Rachel? No
Sarah,
comment. Yeah, that's what I like.
One other note. One other note on what Chris had said. I think if we're going to put together something for giving community service credit, maybe we can come up with a couple of bullet points for what the responsibilities would look like for them. So, walk the beach once a day. I don't know, whatever you think could be handled by that group. You probably have a pretty good idea.
Yeah, let me know what you guys are looking for. This way, when I email Matt and Rachel, I can give them the specifics of what we would be expecting these kids to do.
Perfect. All right. So item number 2 on this particular bullet point pertains to parking fees. And so I circulated around earlier a couple different things. One is the parking pass winner from the contest from the 4th graders. So very cool. We'll get those set up and going. I reached out to Paul's Press, who did the prior ones, to get a quote for them. And so we'll figure out what that looks like. And also mocked up what a day pass would potentially look like. But one of the things that was also done after we had a year at Grinnell's under our beach is looking at how could we potentially adjust our parking pass fee. And so I've included something here as a item for discussion, and we can either modify and vote on it, or we can table it and have more discussion. Although at a certain point we would have to revert to last year's fees because there's some steps we have to go through if we are requesting a change. So at a very high level, here is what my proposal is that we create a season pass for Tiverton residents. That would be $10. Season passes would only apply for Tiverton residents and would not work for non-Tiverton residents or those that are out of state. We would also have 1 day pass. And so the way that would work is it would be $10 for Tiverton residents and Rhode Island residents. And out of state would be 15, or we could aim for that to be higher a little bit. The rationale here is that we cannot charge a Rhode Island resident or a town resident, Rhode Island resident, more than we're charging a town resident. So the $10 fee would be the same. If a resident takes that, gets a day pass at one of the beaches, they could take it and trade it in for a season pass that would correspond to their license plate, would go on their car, and it would be theirs for the year. I did speak with Nancy Mello at the town hall about the idea of having season passes only be sold through the town hall so as not to create potential conflict opportunities with our gate attendants. We talk about that being something we want to avoid. And she said that she would be comfortable with it. I did preface the conversation by saying that in the early part of the season, I would recommend that we have a couple of locations that are not the town hall where people could go and purchase a season pass so that it wouldn't be driving everybody to the town hall. And in speaking with Sarah, my understanding is that the busiest part of the season is really just at the beginning. So we could do that for over 2 weekends, have a position, for example, at Fort Barton School when no one is there. And people could pull up, get a pass, have their name crossed out, and then go about their day and use that season pass for the year. So that was sort of the initial thought, to be able to allow us to charge other Rhode Island residents as a result of this, and it would require implementing a one-time fee. So I put that out there as a proposal for consideration.
So I still have a few questions on whether or not we really hold up. So let's say we have a Tiverton resident and a Portsmouth resident, and they both go to Grinnell's Beach on Saturday. They each pay the 1 day fee.
Mhm.
The Tiverton resident swaps it in for a pass. So when they both go back on Saturday, the Tiverton resident is not paying, but we're charging the Portsmouth one.
Mhm. Yes.
So just from a legal perspective, as far as making sure we're charging the same, I don't know if that would really qualify.
Rachel, we're having a little bit of difficulty with your bandwidth, but I understand your point. I believe if I understood the question correctly, it was because the funds that were used for this beach were from the DEM and were provided by the state. Are there any legal issues as it pertains to essentially day pass being the same thing, but after that, the season pass would be access, whereas the day pass would be continued charge? Bob, hold on, let me unmute you here. Go ahead, Bob.
All right. As far as, I think we should look at raising the out-of-state fee from $15 to $20. Reason being, there's a couple of reasons I'm thinking about this. Number one, it was $15 last year. Now we're charging Tiverton residents $10, which we never charge them anything. So this way here, we're going up on both ends. We're going up with the, we're charging Tiverton residents, and we're also charging out of state is up, $5 more a year. $5 more a day. Also, with the current situation we're in, try to use that as a deterrent to keep out-of-staters from coming to our beaches and taking over for the, spots of the Tiverton residents. Because if we're only gonna be allowed so many people at the beach at a time, it wouldn't be fair for out-of-state residents to be there before Tiverton residents. Maybe I'm not wording that correctly, but that's my thought anyways.
Okay. Thank you, Bob.
Yeah.
Other thoughts or comments, questions?
Yes, Stu, on that same note, I was thinking that 220 for out-of-state residents, because it might deter them from coming to Tiverton, which would leave the beaches more available for our residents or our in-state people, Little Compton, Portsmouth, because there are a limited number at Grinnell's parking spots. So, that might deter some of these people from out of state coming. Other than that, I think the pass looks good. Maybe the only thing I noticed was it should be placed on the windshield, not on the dashboard, because they could take it and hand it to somebody else to use. Where if it was affixed to the windshield, that would be impossible. Other than that, I think, it looks great.
Just as a, please,
You're
Chris,
gonna have the same rate for both beaches then, right? Fogland and Grinnell's?
I would say yes.
I think that works. Small detail, but I know that thing to put on there is that these beaches are carry in, carry out. In other words, don't leave garbage on the beach. I know Grinnell's has some trash cans, but Fogland has nothing. And I know the current pass has that now. It says carry in, carry out on the garbage. So that might be something to put on there. I know it says there's a fine, but it might be nice to add that to it.
Yep, the verbiage on the bottom pass that you see are the day pass. So the sticker on the top, just to Joe's comment first, I think the intent, and I'll go back and look through it to clarify, is the sticker would go on the window, whereas the day pass isn't applicable. It's the same one we used last year. So agreed.
Okay.
Agreed.
Okay.
And then the carry in, carry out. Yep, good call. We can add that in there and also add it to the verbiage on the website and in other places. I think it might be worth us looking at doing some more signage in areas for this coming year in some capacity.
Is there any thought to changing the pricing based on weekend versus weekday?
I was just gonna ask that because we normally charged more on the weekend. It was $10 for at Grinnell's and at Fogland. So out of state at Grinnell's was $10 during the week, $15 on the weekend. And then at Fogland, it was like that for all non-Tiverton residents. So I was gonna ask that same thing. If we are charging the Rhode Island residents $10 at Grinnell's, would it be different on the weekend? How would we?
Do we know what other beaches do, like over in Sandy Point or down at Little Compton or?
Yes, we do. Give me 1 second here. I will say that because I have the 2019 rates here and Sarah's dead on. The rationale behind doing it in that manner was so that if you had a day pass and you wanted to hand it in and say you bought it on a Tuesday, and so how would that work if you bought it on a Saturday and then you were going and it was a $10 fee and there's a $5 difference in there. So it was sort of intent on trying to make the whole thing easier, but no issues on my part with changing that up a little bit.
I think for Tiverton residents, you could still only charge them $10, even if it's the weekend. But then other Rhode Island residents, could you charge them more or no? Probably not at Grinnell's, right?
Not for Grinnell's.
It would have to still be 10 for Rhode Island residents, but Massachusetts, you could do different for the weekend and during the week. And then Fogland, you could do different charges too for all Rhode Island residents.
I believe at Grinnell's, you can't charge more than double what your town resident would pay.
That's correct. Yep. So
maybe we change it down to $15 and give them $10 worth of garbage bags as part of buying it, so it's really gonna cost them $5.
I
They
like
can
it.
charge the out-of-state is 30.
I like it. Good idea.
So I love that idea. I'd like to go on record as saying you brought it up, so.
Right.
If you can't charge them more than double, can't you charge them double?
You can't charge them double. You
So
can't
like
charge
we
them-
could charge them $20 on the weekend, like the out of state, even though we're only charging Tiverton residents 10, or no?
Correct. But if you want to change the weekday to weekend, that's what I don't know what Little Compton gets or Portsmouth, but if they get $25 on the weekend for a day pass, it'd be worth trying to stay comparable to them or to what Horseneck charges or Westport charges, to try to keep it so that we're not the best bargain in town and people come and slam us because we're the best bargain in town.
Right.
I know Little Compton does 20 on the weekend. 20 on the weekend.
Is that, I can find out. I mean, my beach pass is free, but it's, you know, town residents don't pay for a beach pass on it, but they don't take state money either. So they charge whatever they want. But I didn't know what Portsmouth or Westport charged. So
Yeah.
the idea is to try to stay at least on par with them, I would think.
So for Portsmouth, it's $10 Monday through Thursday and 15 for Friday through Sunday. And they also do a book of 4 passes for $35, which is all cash only. Bristol residents are $3 per vehicle Monday through Friday and 5 on weekends and holidays, and non-residents are double that. So 6 during the week, 10 on weekends. Middletown, it's $20 on the weekdays and 30 on weekends and holidays. So what's listed here. Now these may be dated. I don't know what they're doing for 2020, but that's what we had so far.
Okay.
So. All right.
And Fogland is where you make more of your revenue anyway. You get more people coming down there who are gonna, you know,
Right.
spend a little bit more money, you know, between the windsurfing and all of that. That's definitely, I think, if I'm not wrong, by 60 or 70% of the revenue the last few years was there.
Mm.
So how do we deal with the parking on windsurfing? Do they have to park at the beach and then walk over?
Most of the guys park either all the way to the southeastern side, which is as you come in on the left, or they go out all the way out around the outer point out there, which is not technically parking, which is that back area, which is on the north side, and they park out there. So it's kind of 2 groups.
Because
And the interesting thing about those guys, the good thing about those guys, they usually show up when it's windy and kind of nasty out and nobody else is on the beach. So it's like, it's like revenue on days that are not really sunny, beautiful days.
So my only concern in this is if we're going to implement something from a fee structure change standpoint, we have to have it to get it to the town council, who in turn has to have, I believe it's just sort of an open meeting to discuss the changes before they can get voted on formally. And so right at the moment, having spoken to Nancy, unless we decide to make a decision on this in some capacity tonight, we're going to be pushing into June before they're really going to be able to get it done. She said, I think the next one was the 25th.
26th of May.
26th, excuse me.
That's a public hearing, Chris?
Public hearing is this Monday on the 11th.
No, but I'm saying this would have to be
It
a
would
public
probably
hearing,
be a public hearing because it's the fee
Right.
change.
what I thought.
So before we dive into whether we vote on this or not, I'm just kind of curious to get everybody's temperature on, would you be comfortable trying to vote on this right at the moment, or would you, with the acknowledgement of the time issue, prefer to wait on this?
I wouldn't mind voting on it. And I do have another question though. On these day passes, would we have different day passes for the week and for the weekend, or would they have all their different pricing if we did like a weekday price and a weekend price all on the same pass?
Be the same pass, right? That's what we did last
Yeah,
year,
they
and it
were.
just said $10 during the
Same
week
pattern,
and
just
15 on the
circled what it
weekend.
was.
Yeah.
So would it make sense, so for the Tiverton residents, so I'm clear, the Tiverton resident pays $10. Is that good for the whole year for them?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're getting a season pass for $10.
Yep.
So that if we had Grinnell's and Fogland were $10 during the week,
Yep.
and then they both move up to $20 on the weekend, it's an increase, but I don't think it's completely out of the question, because it's comparable again with Little Compton, although it's not as nice as South Shore Beach, but some people like it better.
Yeah, but you half the time you can't get a South Shore Beach anyhow. It's packed.
There you go, we're the overflow. So you can go $10 during the week on both and 20 on the weekend for both. So
Yeah.
that way you get some business during the week.
I think that's the way to go.
So really what we're doing is just upping the price by $5 on the
No,
week.
we're setting a week and a weekday and a weekend rate. So there's 2 rates.
So we had that
we're gonna
last
get-
year. Oh, but so Grinnell's would be, now Rhode Island
Yeah.
residents are paying. But that's exactly what Fogland was last year, except last year it was 15 on the weekend, and but 20 would be so much easier. I wouldn't need $5 bills.
I was just gonna
That's
say
what I'm
that. the 10
saying.
keep it to
Hey,
10 and
give 'em
That's a
20 to
huge
avoid the
plus.
fine.
It's all about making life easy.
Well, it would
Give us
also,
all fives.
it would also make it easy for Stu for his the way the pass is written. You could write it and have, you know, weekday and weekend rates right there. You can make just another column to the right.
So Chris, if you're looking at, so the thing that I circulated, if it says at the top season pass, Tiverton resident right now is listed at $10. What would that be
Correct.
in this new system? Would it still be $10 or would it be
Yeah.
20?
That would still be 10. And then there would be to the, below that, you would put a weekday rate. And then to the right of that, you would put a weekend rate. So it would add another column to the right and then a space. And then Rhode Island residents would be $10 during the week. Non-resident would be $10 during the week. And then Rhode Island residents would be 20 on the weekend for Fogland and $10 for Grinnell's.
And would Massachusetts residents be the same, or would they be completely different?
They're more,
$20.
they're 15 and 20.
Yeah.
We still need $5 bills.
Yeah.
Last year, what was the non-Rhode Island resident price during the week?
For non-Rhode Island,
10. At
$10.
$10.
So why don't we just leave that as 10 and then on the weekend make them 20?
Then they're the same as Rhode Island. But they were last year too. It's always the same. Like at Fogland, Rhode Island residents who aren't Tiverton residents paid the same as Massachusetts.
Why not just up that to 20 and just leave it at 20? Non-Rhode
Can-
Island residents, $20.
Are we gonna have 2 different passes, one for Grinnell's and one for Fogland?
No.
So you're
So-
saying 20 every day, all day?
Yeah, for non-Rhode Island residents, yeah, let them pay $20. Maybe
Well, we
that'll
can only-
keep 'em- maybe that'll
Can we
keep 'em
only charge
away.
that at Fogland though?
No, Massachusetts, you can
both.
charge them whatever you want anyway.
Yeah, I'm saying, yeah, non-Rhode
Oh,
Island
well-
residents, $20.
So what if you do, as this is here, so $10 during the week, $20 on the weekend for Rhode Island residents. And then Massachusetts, you could probably even do 20 during the week, 30 on the weekend. If you want to do that, or just do 20 every single day for Massachusetts.
That's what I would say, just to make it easier.
That would be easy. That's what I wrote up. So Rhode Island resident is $10 on a weekend, a weekday, $20 on a weekend. Non-resident is $20 on a weekday and $20 on a weekend.
And I say Tiverton residents, I was gonna say you only charge them $10 no matter what day of the week it is. Yeah.
Correct. And it's a season pass
or-
though.
Well, Rhode Island residents, you only charge them $10 too, right?
Rhode Island resident, $10 on a weekday, $20 on a weekend.
Okay,
Yep.
right, because you can't charge them more than double, right? Okay.
So the piece I
can charge
don't
them
know is
20.
the season pass thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can do that.
Well, we could vote on it and then leave it up to the town council to decide, right?
No.
I guess.
Well, I'm gonna have to run it by the state too, because I'm not sure we can do the season pass thing.
Well,
And I'm not trying to, believe me, that's what I want to do. I think. that,
well, Chris, in Little Compton, you get a residence pass for free, right?
Correct.
But if
Well,
another,
but-
if somebody in Little Compton wants to go to the beach and they didn't get a pass, what do they pay?
They pay the daily rate.
Which is,
I don't know.
okay, I thought you knew, I thought you said it was $20, okay.
I think it's 25 at Little Compton.
But what I'm getting at is that if we can't charge any more than twice the rate, I don't know if they'll let us do a season pass at the same rate as a day pass for the residents.
Well, that's why I was saying, keep Rhode Island residents $10 on the weekday and $10 on the weekend. That, because you're still
Right.
getting $10, just leave it that way.
No, I would do that too. I would not change the Rhode Island residents to 20 on the weekend.
Right.
It would only be the out-of-staters you would charge the extra money.
Right.
That
That's what I
makes
would do.
sense. I like
And
that.
way,
That's good.
Do I have the out-of-staters correct here for what we were looking at?
Yeah.
because that Rhode Island resident might come back and they pay another $10 another day. So you're still getting $10 from them, where the Tiverton resident's paying $10 for the whole year.
Well, this becomes the question about the season pass, Joe, is that if this $10 for the whole year only works if we're willing to adopt a season pass. Otherwise, I don't know how we account for it.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Probably adopt that season pass for $10.
So there's another suggestion in here that might, just to spitball a little bit of a straw man, you could say that a season pass, we could almost do 2 of them. And you could have a Rhode Island resident pass that's not a Tiverton pass for 20. So it's 2 to 1. They could have the same opportunity if they wanted. I don't know.
No, I agree with the premise that you don't have to offer it. It's the issue of whether or not you can do it at the same price as you did.
Right.
I don't know if you do a Tiverton resident season pass for 15. Then it mitigates the whole issue of what you're charging daily, because it's a season pass.
So you're suggesting something like that?
Right. Now, I would just suggest for another $5, I'll give you a sticker to put you in here all year and stuff. But I'm not discriminating against a day pass. You know what I mean? I just don't know if that would fly.
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea here was that if you had it as a $10 pass, a day pass, the residents show up at the town hall and they hand it in and they get something back and there's no additional exchange. It's not one more thing for.
No, I know what you're trying to do. I just don't know if the state will let us do that.
No. But if we offer a season pass for Rhode Island residents, we're giving them the same option as we're giving the residents of Tiverton. So if we said.
It would have to be the same rate.
Yeah. And that's a cheap season pass, $25.
Can it be double?
No, I think you only charge out of state double.
I think if you charge Rhode Island residents a season pass, we're gonna lose a lot of money.
Yeah, that's a cheap season pass.
And then you'd have to have 2 different season passes, because do you want Rhode Island residents to be able to get into Bogland too?
Come up with a season pass for a Rhode Island, for a Tiverton resident. Now, maybe the season pass includes other things like parking around Stone Bridge, or I don't know what you call it. Maybe you just don't call it a season beach pass. You call it a Tiverton sticker.
And the sticker doesn't say beach pass on it, just says town of Tiverton. So, one of the ideas that originally floated around was you could use it for the dump. And then there's a lot of different ways you can do it. The issue just becomes is that dump stickers are free right now. So
I know I pay for a dump sticker in Little Compton. It's not a lot of money, but you have to have a sticker to go in.
Yeah, we don't have any control or purview over the dump, so I'm a little leery about kind of going in that space.
And also, if you're not charging Tiverton residents anything, then we can't charge Rhode Island residents. So if we're going to charge them something, doesn't it have to be for the beach so we can charge Rhode Island residents?
Mhm.
Well, you go into you would just leave it at day rates. You wouldn't do season. You wouldn't give them a season thing.
So you charge Rhode Island.
That's why I like the day stuff. The day and the weekend stuff is fine. It's I don't want somebody to come back and say, well, because Tiverton can do this for $10 for the entire season, the Tiverton resident weekday pass is no longer, it doesn't square. That somehow you're discriminating by,
Well, right now, we can't charge any Rhode Island residents anything for going to Fogland because Tiverton residents don't pay anything. So
No,
if we
No,
did
it's
have,
Grinnell's.
Grinnell's.
I'm sorry,
Grinnell's.
Grinnell's.
Yeah.
So if we did have a season pass for Grinnell, could we just have a Tiverton pass that's for Grinnell's and Fogland, and then just have a Rhode Island resident pass that would allow them just to go to Grinnell's and still charge them a Tiverton resident $10 or $20, and then you would charge another Rhode Islander $10 or $20, whatever we decide.
I don't know.
Well, I like the way he's got it right now. Looks pretty good, I think. Because you're charging the Tiverton resident and the Rhode Island resident the same price on weekends and weekdays. Now, if the Tiverton resident wants to go turn it in for a season pass, all they gotta do is go up there and get a season pass and they're good for the year. I mean,
Well, let's leave it like this for now, and let me find out whether or not we can actually do this the way it is, because at most, I think you'd only have to increase it to 15 to get a season pass. So you're not just, so it doesn't, that somebody doesn't say that somehow we're not treating the Tiverton residents same as a Rhode Islander. How do they get their $10 weekday pass converted to a season? How come I can't get one converted to a season? That's what the issue is going to be.
Oh, so
If the
basically,
rate was different, I think that, there's no argument to it.
so basically what you're saying is if we put, so like if a Tiverton resident, if we charge them more for a season pass, then they have to decide, do I want to go get a season pass or do I want to pay every single day?
I think you're just telling them the first time they get a day pass is take this thing up to town hall, add $5 to it, and you get.
But I'm saying like but like by posting it like this,
Yep.
it's basically saying like if they don't go get a season's pass, then they now have to pay every single day when they come to the
Right.
beach, just like a Rhode Island resident.
Right.
Well, that makes sense.
So Chris, I don't know if you guys can hear me now. I tried to swap over to mobile. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
much better.
Much better.
Better.
Okay. I don't know if you can see me. I don't know if the video is showing for you guys.
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
So my concern is if we have a Tiverton resident swap out their pass for a season pass, even if they have to pay extra, the next time they go to the beach, they don't pay anything, but the Rhode Island resident gets charged again. So grand total, the Tiverton resident goes to the beach twice. The first time they paid 10, then they got their season pass and that cost them $5. So they're up to 15. Next time they go to the beach, no money. But a Portsmouth resident pays 10 each time, they're paying 20. So I just worry that it's still not equal for Grinnell's.
Who do we ask about this to find out what we
Yeah.
are allowed to do? Because I mean, I can contact someone.
that's what Chris said he was gonna find out if the state would allow us
Okay.
that, right, Chris?
So, yeah, do we take state money for Fogland?
No.
No,
No.
Just
So-
Grinnell's.
So maybe we
And
just.
that's
do
why,
the town
Chris, right now,
resident
there's a separate rate at Fogland than Grinnell's.
So
There's
maybe
always
we
been
just do
separate
the-
rates.
The town resident pass for Fogland. So now it's not, it doesn't matter.
No.
Yeah, I
So
know
what-
that they're gonna wanna go to.
Yeah, so I
Grinnell's.
did have a proposal last year around this time, and I don't know if it's something we want to consider again. Basically leaving all the fee structures exactly as you have them, but on this little Tiverton day pass, on the piece of paper that we're going to hand out to people who get the day pass, one little disclaimer at the bottom, or I guess not really disclaimer, but information that says Rhode Island residents can use this as a season pass for Grinnell's, because that's what we're saying Tiverton can do. That one-time payment gets you into Grinnell's all season. So a Rhode Island resident, I would imagine, would pay one time and should be able to get into Grinnell's all season as well.
Yeah, the one distinction, Rachel, is that they're not using this pass as the means to get into the beach. The Tiverton residents are swapping it out for another permanent sticker. And
Right.
so we can still do that. There's no reason we can't create a Rhode Island resident pass that's either the same exact one with a different color or something else. I think the question just becomes, right now, a Tiverton resident's going to go to Grinnell's and not pay anything. So we're using last year's example. They show up, they drive in. An out of town resident, but still a Rhode Islander, shows up, drives in, they get to park. No questions asked. What we're saying right now is that even if we only put a season pass in place for Fogland, we haven't changed what the per day payment requirements are at Grinnell's. So you're still going to end up requiring that the town resident and the state non-town resident both pay every time they go in. And I think my kind of hope with this is that there was a way to bypass more than one payment for a town resident in this. So I think
Yeah, I was seeing it almost the same way, but instead of separating it for two separate passes for the two different residents, the Tiverton resident versus the Rhode Island resident pass, I saw it more as the Tiverton's pass that you put on the windshields, that adorable little hermit crab, that is recognized by our gate attendants as valid at either of our beaches. But this day pass that a non-Tiverton Rhode Island resident keeps with them can just be flashed at the gate attendant at Grinnell's only and be allowed in with no payment because they've already paid once. I don't know if that's, I don't know if I'm not making it clear enough, but
I just don't know.
How about if you did a Tiverton resident $10 pass, Rhode Island resident a $20, and that's a sticker for the whole year?
we can't do that because Grinnell's makes us charge them the same thing.
I thought it was not more than
No,
double.
no, Grinnell's not, you can't charge them more than double.
Well, I thought that was just
Charge
outstanding.
your residents.
I
So
thought
if you-
Grinnell's was you can't
Okay.
charge them more, so I would need clarification on that.
Yeah, that's something we'd have to find out, because if that was the case, then just do 10 for a Tiverton resident, 20 for a Rhode Island resident, and they get a season pass. You made 10 bucks more, but what are you gonna do? You don't wanna
Yeah, I
keep
thought the
passing this
concern,
over and over again.
yeah, I thought the concern was that we're getting a lot of, and I don't know the breakdown, but I thought the concern was we would lose a lot of revenue for Fogland if we offered a pass to the
Correct.
non-Tiverton residents
Yes, we
of Rhode
will.
Island.
Right.
So we don't want to do anything different with Fogland. We don't want passes for anyone other than Tiverton residents at Fogland. So how do we create a pass system for Rhode Island residents only valid at Grinnell's?
Well, what you'd
To
have to do,
match what the Tiverton pays.
you'd probably have to make a different color Rhode Island resident sticker to give them than
For Grinnell's
Rhode Island.
only.
Right.
And
That's- you
again, that would
probably
be
have to do-
Grinnell's. So they pay their one entrance into Grinnell's and then that sticker is good for Grinnell's.
I don't want to chime in with a no decision, but it seems like we keep coming back to that this decision is going to shift more than just, one lane of this. And if we don't know what we're allowed to do with that shift by the state, then we're just going to keep spinning our wheels. It seems like we should find out what we can do with the comparisons. And once we have that information, then we can really make a solid decision on this.
And my fear is if we don't make some decision tonight, it reverts back to what we did last year because we've run out of time.
And let's summarize what we had last year, because that might not be bad. We didn't charge Rhode Island residents and we didn't charge Tiverton residents, and we had two rates. And I think they were pretty fair. So we just would eliminate charging Tiverton residents a fee. And then you don't charge Rhode Island residents a fee at Grinnell's, and then you have your normal fees down at Fogland. It's not terrible.
I mean, with doing that, I mean, there was on weekends when it was really nice. I mean, we made close to $1,000 at Grinnell's, even with the limited spaces and not charging any Rhode Island residents.
Yeah, because it's mostly not Rhode Island residents going there. It's basically folks coming from
Right.
southeastern Mass.
So I mean, I don't
That might not be a
know.
bad thing. What we had last year was not terrible. So,
No, it wasn't. It worked out.
yeah.
The
But I
only
still
thing,
like the idea. I think where Stu's going is this season pass, whether we charge for it or not, the issue that's a good thing for the gate attendants because they have that. That eliminates it.
right. One
Yeah.
thing about it being free for so many people is if we have new restrictions with how many people we let in, like how do we tell them? Like you can't, I mean, I know like even if there's parking spots, but it's kind of hard to limit things when it's free. If that
Right.
makes
Well, when
sense.
Joe, could you reach out to Trish Hilton and maybe get her guidance?
I can do that tomorrow.
Here's the
Oh.
thing. I mean, I would
Oh,
advocate
you mean,
for
oh, you
just,
want me to reach out now?
sure, if you want to send her a note. I mean, I would advocate for the idea of just doing a day pass and voting on that part. But the problem becomes is that if somebody sees the day pass without the understanding of the season pass, what they're going to do is they're going to look at it and go, "You're charging me $10 every time I go to the beach. I didn't pay anything last year." So I think the season pass, the idea of doing this is not to preclude town residents from having access to the beach. It's to make it sure that we have a revenue stream to account for out of town and out of state residents that are coming in this particular location, which still probably won't cover the maintenance on it, but at least it moves in the right direction.
No, I agree. That makes sense.
And the problem really is that the Grinnells, what you can charge non-Rhode Island residents, that one issue is the only thing we have to get over. Because I think the rates that we want to charge are fair, weekends and weekdays. It's just that one issue we got to figure out. We've been stuck on that for 2 years. So
Well,
I don't know
I
if we
feel
defer to Trish or Chris Cotta and see if they can help us with that decision. I think other than that, I think the rate structure you have is great.
Hold on, Ed. Hey guys, I just want to let you know that Ed called me, so he's listening while he's driving, and I think he wants to say something.
Sure.
What about
When
when
do-
I believe.
When
hang on, let me
doesn't he
see
want to say
where I am.
something?
I thought that we had, or we discussed somewhat of a remedy for that when they go to the town hall to get their beach pass. We could charge the Tiverton residents that $10 fee for the year. I thought there was some discussion of maybe that initial bang would have been right there and then.
Well, Ed, and what Stu is presenting is actually that we charge Tiverton residents $10 for like a season pass. And then what would we do about a Rhode Island resident season pass? And then if they didn't have the season pass, the weekday and the weekend rates, and then Fogland versus Grinnell's, that's kind of where this is.
All right. Okay, sorry, Stu.
No worries. Hi, Ed.
Hi, guys. Hi, ladies. Hi, Rachel. I hear you there.
Hi.
Hi, Ed.
I can't drive and look at a computer yet, Sarah.
That's okay. Just focus on driving.
So
Technology.
I
So-
feel like,
Yeah.
oh, sorry. Like, I feel like we're just kind of talking about the same thing over and over again, and we don't really know, kind of like what Dan was saying, we don't really know until we get an answer from the DEM. Would you like me to?
No, I have DEM's state season beach passes up on my phone right now for Charleston, Breachway, East Beach, Scarborough. And they have weekday and weekend in-season passes. Their resident season pass is $30. Resident seniors over 65 is 15. Non-residents are 60. Non-residents 65 and older is 30. So that gets you in for the season. And I would still do the whole day thing that you're doing.
Sounds good.
So Chris, am I hearing you correctly that there's a two-tiered pricing system for beach versus season for state beaches in Rhode Island?
Well, what I have is they have this is their season beach pass issues. So, and it's for the resident and for the non-resident. And when I think their non-residents are Rhode Island residents. And that I need to get clarified too, because we don't want to do this for not,
Yeah, so the state beaches do it for Rhode Island residents and out of state. Those are their two separate prices.
Okay.
But we have
Um,
this, yeah, we have this whole unique stipulation on Grinnell where it's not a state beach, it's still a town beach.
Right.
Because we
I mean, I
received the
think-
state funds,
But because there was federal funds used, that's why.
correct? That's why we have to charge the
We're-
same. So I just don't, yeah, I don't know how you could get around letting a Tiverton resident in there all summer long for $10 as much as they want, and then charging a Rhode Island resident $10 every time they come.
Well,
I think
go ahead, Rachel. I mean, Sarah.
I'm wondering if we charge, if we do two different colors for the season passes, like one for the state residents, which it only works at Grinnell's, and then the Tiverton residents have a different color. They can go to Grinnell's or Fogland for the $10, but the Rhode Island residents can only go to Grinnell's with that. And that's going to give us, I mean, a little bit
$10.
more revenue than last year, because
Right, 'cause
last year we
was none.
charged Rhode Island residents nothing. So we'll at least be getting that extra $20. We would just have to have like 3 different passes, because we'd have to have a day pass and the 2 different season passes.
So
Sarah, I actually think that's spot on. That's exactly what we need. We need the blue Tiverton, I guess I'm saying blue because that's what Stu has here.
Right.
The hermit crab sticker in blue, valid for both beaches because it's a town resident. Make it in another color, which is only valid for Grinnell's.
Yep.
Charge the same. And then you have your day pass.
Yep, and the gate attendants will have to just make it very clear to Rhode Island residents that it only works at Grinnell's, and if they go to Fogland, they have to pay for a
The
day
day pass.
pass.
Can I interject here for a second? Because I opened up the grant page from the DEM, and this is the particular page on it from, I think it's the most recent grant cycle, and it says requirements for public access. There fees, if no fees are charged to city town residents, then fees cannot be charged to other Rhode Island residents. If fees are charged to city town residents, then fees to other Rhode Island residents cannot be more than twice the city town resident fee. So within this, what this is stating to me, if I'm clear on it, is that we do have the ability for other Rhode Island residents to charge them twice what we are charging Rhode Island residents, or Tiverton residents, excuse me.
That's what it looks like. So if you do a $10 season pass for Tiverton residents, you do a $20 season pass for Rhode Island residents, but it's only good at Grinnell's.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I know we've
That's
kicked this
sticker
around for a
new.
long time. I would
That's a good
actually,
idea.
I'd actually make a motion for that we proceed with a Tiverton resident pass for $10, good at both beaches, a Rhode Island resident beach pass for $20, good at Grinnell's only.
And should say it right on the pass,
and
Grinnell's only.
Keep the day passes the way you have them.
Someone just sent a message to the Facebook group they're watching.
Good, I appreciate that.
They
So
must be thrilled.
I hope they brought popcorn.
Yeah.
So is this what we're looking at right here?
Yes.
Yes.
I like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
sounds
so
good.
just from a visual standpoint, Sarah, my thinking is we'll do the out-of-state pass will probably be the same one, just red or some very
Yeah.
easy color to identify for people.
That sounds good.
And then I would offer up that the season pass element, this doesn't have to be voted on as part of it, but we still have the sale of season passes go through the town hall rather than putting the onus for that on our gate attendants.
Yeah, except for your initial phase where you would try to do them somewhere else, but
Absolutely. And what I had talked to Nancy about is if there's a way to get multiple lists. So if you live closer to Fogland, the place you can go is closer to Fogland. If you live closer to Grinnell's, we could figure out how that might work. I do want to make it easy.
can you bring the sticker up for the season pass again?
Trish might be jumping in. I sent her,
So, so if this one here is for town of Tiverton, and I would just put under that residents only, right? So it's blue. And then on your red one or whatever other color you're gonna use, you go Rhode Islanders or something with a different
Grinnell's
color.
only.
And I wouldn't go town of Tiverton, I would put Grinnell's Beach.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
I hear that. I do like the hermit crab, I'm not gonna lie.
No, that's
Really
fine.
cute.
I would say find a way to get that hermit crab on those volunteer t-shirts for the community service.
100%. We also, as part of the contest,
Perfect.
we said that the winning family gets pass number 1. So that was part of that contest piece. So
We could put that on our t-shirts too in the little corner.
So then this Grinnell's season pass is really Tiverton Beach passes, right? Resident beach,
Yeah, all beaches.
all beaches. It's not just Grinnell's.
Right.
The Tiverton's all beaches, yep.
Yep.
so it's the same thing, just the way I've got it listed here, but we're in agreement that it would go to everybody.
Right.
Okay. And then so the Rhode Island resident is good at Grinnell's Beach only. There is not a Fogland season pass for Rhode Island residents. And there is not one for out of state. The day rate is $10 per person.
Right.
Just one question in here that has been raised in the past. We had charged $5 for motorcycles in the past, but especially at Grinnell's, they take up a full spot. Should we do the same $10?
I would do 10. It's what
Yeah.
you can charge.
Yeah, they're taking a spot, and the RVs take 4 spots.
Actually, you know what? Don't even put them. To take the motorcycle right out.
Yeah.
Hey, Stu,
RV, you might charge more, but
Yeah, the RVs at Fogland, that's something we should watch, Sarah, because a couple of them, they block like 4 spots and they just sit there and they don't park perpendicular, they park horizontal to the beach.
I would just put per spot
hey, Stu.
or per space.
That one's
They
gonna be hard to
charge 4
nail
times as
down on a
much.
beach.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think how that would work from a gate attendant standpoint.
Not many RVs actually come in. That's actually what the message just was about RVs coming in before the beach opens, before the gate attendant's there.
Mhm.
And I think that's what happens. They come in before we open, and then not many actually come and pay. But that's a whole other issue.
Hey, Stu, can I say something about the RVs?
Yes, and then I see Councilor Hilton's showing up, so I'm gonna invite her to share. Go ahead, Bob, first. Go ahead, Bob.
Oh, sorry. Hey, as far as the RVs go, can we charge $25 for town residents, one time only? And then anybody from out of town, $25 per day?
I'm a little concerned about the idea of giving a resident sticker for something you can live in.
Mm-hmm.
Say that again. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
So my concern about giving a resident sticker for RVs is that people can live in the RVs. And so we might end up in a difficult situation whereby somebody has a resident sticker on their camper. They show up and say, well, I'm going to stay for the summer and just be in my RV.
Yeah.
And we have the legality behind it.
Well, again, they'd have to have a sticker on their RV, and then they'd have to have a sticker on their regular vehicle too.
Yeah, I'm just concerned that if you put a sticker on their RV, they might live in their RV at the beach for the summer for $30.
It's a good
Beaches
deal.
close at a certain hour though.
All right. I'm going to pause this thought for 1 second. Councilor Hilton, do you want to chime in?
Well, I just wanted to ask a question. So first of all, Joe sent me an invitation to your meeting in a text, so I wasn't sure. But I do have a question about the season pass for Rhode Island residents.
Mhm.
Of why you want to do that.
So the rationale behind it was that we cannot charge more than twice for a entrance to Grinnell's as we would for a Tiverton resident. We want to make it so that there is the ability to charge more or charge Rhode Island residents without really hindering our town residents. And so the day pass thing made sense. When you look at the season pass, the rationale behind it was if we did a season pass, it still fits within the guidelines of what the DEM allows for as a 2-to-1 and would allow us to keep the same $10 for a town resident as well.
I'm not sure you have to. If we have a day rate, this is the way I understand it. If we have a day rate for Tiverton residents, in other words, they have an option, they can buy a season pass or they can buy a day pass. We don't have to offer a season pass to out of town residents. or other Rhode Island residents. The only thing that we can't do is on the day rate, you can't charge more than double. So if the day rate for Tiverton residents is 0, then the day rate for other Rhode Island residents is 0. But if you have a day rate for Tiverton residents, which is what, I can't see it, but whatever it is, then you can charge other Rhode Island residents no more than double than that, but you don't have to offer them a season pass.
So just from a phrasing for how to present this for a vote, is it feasible for us to vote on a $10 Tiverton resident pass, keep the day rates as $10 across the board, with the stipulation that if we are required by the DEM to offer a similar type of access for Rhode Island residents, that we can do so with a $20 season pass? I mean, I think the day rate versus season is where we keep getting hung up on this.
Yeah, my opinion, I think you're making it a little more complicated than it needs to be. Because I think you can have just a beach season pass for Tiverton residents.
Can
You
you
can
do
have
it for
that.
the same rate though?
What?
Can you, what they originally had was the $10 Tiverton resident week, we'll just do weekday, just to make it simple. And then the non-resident was twice that at $20 a day.
Yeah.
And they were keeping the resident, Rhode Island resident, the same rate, but now I guess we could do it double if we wanted.
You
But then
can.
they were gonna do a season pass for the same $10. In other words, if you bought a day pass as a Tiverton resident, you could convert it to a season pass. You don't think that that causes problems?
No, not because, only because it's good at both beaches. If it was only going to be good at Grinnell's, then you might run into a problem. But because it's a resident pass that gets you into any road, any Tiverton beach, you don't have to offer a season pass to anything other than Tiverton residents.
So then I would agree to go back and get rid of the Grinnell's, get rid of Fog, and go Tiverton Beach Pass for both beaches. But
Yeah,
season pass for all beaches.
exactly. So then you can have just a season pass for Tiverton residents that's good at, that's good at either beach. And even, even if you got to the point, for example, not that it's really there, but that little spit of a beach that we have at the end of South Shore Road.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yep.
We've talked about, if we can sort it out with the residents down there, having some, parking spaces, right? You could mark those parking spaces, Tiverton, season pass beach holders only. So you can have a season pass for Tiverton beaches that covers all the beaches. And then you just charge a day fee to Rhode Island residents and out of state residents. And as long as you have a day fee for Tiverton residents, if they don't want to buy the pass, then you can charge double that amount for other Rhode Island residents, and you can charge whatever you want for out of state residents.
Beautiful.
So you can charge whatever you want for out of state?
You can charge whatever you want for out of state residents.
Okay, I thought it was the other way. I thought it was double for out of state.
No,
No.
double for,
That's
double
good, I
for,
like that. No, you had it right.
you're happy?
So,
Yeah. That's
so
double.
Trish, we could charge Rhode Island residents $20 for the
Yeah.
day if we say Tiverton residents have to pay 10.
And
Yeah.
I would do that on the weekends.
Yeah, I mean, although I would, honestly, I think that
Okay.
if I were you, I would do like, I know you want people to buy passes, but I would do a day pass for Tiverton residents because they're at $5, and then you could charge Rhode Island residents $10, do 5 and 10 for Tiverton residents for a day pass, and then you could do 10 and 20 for other Rhode Island residents.
Yeah, so what we have here is that the season pass for a Tiverton resident would be $10. The day pass for a Tiverton resident would be $10. So they could, in theory, take their day pass and turn it in for a season pass.
Yeah,
And we can charge more for the Rhode Island residents if, on here, I think weekdays, keep it at 10. Out of state, we have listed at 20. Sarah, I fully acknowledge that $5 bills may be your nemesis on this, but do we
That's
want
fine.
difference in say 15?
The bank knows me now. It's fine.
So what Tricia said, if you took the Tiverton residents weekday and made it 5.
Yep.
I think it's gonna be
now leave
really
the Rhode Island
hard.
resident 10, which is double,
Mhm.
right? And then move over to the weekend and make it 10 and make the Rhode Island resident, I don't know if you want to go 15 or 20.
I think if you did 20 for Rhode Island residents on the weekend, I would make it 30 for out of state on the weekend,
Or 25.
or 25. But everyone
let's
else is
ask a question. What does South Shore charge?
I
a
don't know.
lot.
Does
I
anybody
get mine for
remember?
free.
I think
25.
it's 25 for a
Weekend's
day,
25.
but a season's pass is like $150 if you're not a resident.
Yeah, it's 25 a weekend day, I think.
Hmm.
It
It might be 20 during the day, during the week.
Yeah, and I think Sarah's right.
Definitely more.
150 for a season pass. Yeah.
Yep.
If you're not from Little Compton, which is.
And I'm pretty sure those prices have been that way for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Are we still trying to make the rates of Fogland and Grinnell's the same at this point?
Yeah.
Is that what, that's where we're at here?
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like the 10 Tiverton resident weekday, 10 weekend, and the same for Rhode Island resident, just increase it on the weekend to 20. And out of state, I would go 25 on the weekend.
For both beaches?
Or- Yeah, just,
Yeah.
So I think something that Sarah said does resonate with me which is this year.
Weekends and holidays.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
It has said weekend. I'll put holidays back in. That was listed in the last one. I think we're going to have potentially fewer spots when we deal with social distancing guidelines.
Mhm.
So there's a value associated with the spaces on the beach. And I want to be cognizant of that. I also, we do want people to come to beaches. I think obviously not as perhaps as if we want the town residents to have all the access first. But at what point do we potentially price ourselves out, or do we just not care?
Well, you're not pricing yourself out at $10 for season pass.
No,
Yeah.
no, I agree. I think the resident one makes sense, 5 and 10. When we look at Rhode Island residents, it's $10 weekdays and 20 on the weekends. Are we okay with that?
I think maybe 15 on the weekend for Rhode Island residents because every other one only goes up $5. So why are we doubling Rhode Island residents? I know we're doubling Tiverton as well, but we're not doubling Massachusetts or like out of state.
That's reasonable. Yeah.
So if you make it 15, I mean, we're already going to need 5s if people are paying $25. So we might as well maybe hopefully collect more $5 bills.
So this is the only thing I will say, that at one point, and I can't remember when this was, but we raised our rates at the beach, and this was a few years ago, and they went up too high because we do rely on out-of-state residents to help pay for those beaches. So we can try it. I don't know. What was it this year for weekdays? 10 if you were
10 and then 15 for the weekend.
Yeah,
That was Grinnell's.
that was
That was
both.
Fogland too.
They're the
Yeah.
same price. And people sort of groaned about that. You're going a pretty big jump, which, will definitely impact your traffic. And I know it's hard to tell because we don't know with social distancing how many people they're going to let us have on the
Right.
beaches. But, you may find that we have less revenue. On the other hand, if, I don't know, we've got 15,000 residents in Tiverton, if, I don't know, if maybe not half, maybe half of them, if you're a 2-car family, buys a sticker, then maybe that makes up for it. And maybe that's okay.
that's what I was gonna say. You got Tiverton residents that didn't pay before, they just got a sticker for the year. So now that they're gonna pay $10 for the season pass, so that may offset some of that revenue.
Yeah,
And-
that's per car.
Right.
Right.
So Trisha, would you suggest we do for out of state 15 and 20, so it's not going up $10 from last year, or?
No,
I think that,
I'm
I
not,
like that. I like 15 and 20.
The other
Yeah,
thing is,
I
like,
like
you did
that
say
too.
the residents, we're gonna make, there's a lot of Tiverton residents who I think we're gonna just pay the $10, and that's a lot more. We give out a lot of season passes.
Well, don't forget, we're also gonna have a lot of cleaning costs to deal with this beach too, that, you know.
Right.
You know,
But our
it's
revenue,
gonna have to be
well, we're
monitored.
trying to get that. Our revenue doesn't help us with expenses.
Can I suggest that we, because we're kind of going in a circle here. Can I suggest that we do a $5 increase on this for out of state, and we do 10, 15, 20 on weekends and holidays, and you do 5, 10, 20 during the weekday? Because people are already, I think, there's going to be some grumbling based on adding a fee at all for Tiverton residents. We do want to make sure that we're not, again, pushing people out or pressing them out. And the other part to this is that we used last year to determine where we are now. And so knowing what we do, we can reevaluate this for 2021.
Okay.
But I don't think a $5 increase is unreasonable. And I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of somebody that wanted to go to the beach. $20 I feel comfortable with. I might have a 20 in my pocket. 25, I don't know. And it seems like a small thing, but $5 is a big difference to some people.
So out of state,
It's louder.
15 and 20, 15 during the week and 20 on the weekends.
Yeah, I think that's good. 15 and 20. That
And
looks-
David, the thing you said, there's a lot,
looks fair.
just said there's a lot of people that haven't been working too.
Right.
Tiverton residents.
Like this, I like it just as is right here. Yep.
Yeah, I like that
Favor.
too.
All in favor,
Well,
aye.
Get it done.
Let's go.
All right, so
Go.
this is
Do it.
this is for
David.
a proposal to go
Long
to.
enough.
Yeah, so here's what we're gonna do. I need a motion to, how am I phrasing this for the town council? To recommend the following pricing structure to the town council, is that correct?
Yes, sounds good.
All right,
Oh,
can I get a
sorry.
motion?
Can I just ask you guys, what happened with the motorcycle one? I was talking to Ed and I missed that.
There's no
They still
distinction
pay
between
like a
cars.
resident. They pay the same thing.
Because they're
Okay.
taking up
It was
more
the
space,
car.
so it just rolled into
Hey,
it.
Okay,
Stuart, fill in the RVs 25 on the weekends too then.
Yeah,
Or
but if
whatever
an
it is.
RV, but if an RV comes in with a motorcycle on the back, you charge them an extra $5.
No,
Hey, can I bring up something about the RVs again?
No.
No,
Sure.
we're voting.
Bob, go ahead.
Again, can't we, number one, I think we should have a rule with that the RVs are only allowed there during beach, when the beaches are open. There's no overnight parking for RVs. I think that should be put in there.
It's already there.
It's already there?
That's a
It's
town
already there.
ordinance.
Yeah, you can only stay there
Okay.
till dusk.
The other thing, isn't there a way we could just make, a $25 fee for Tiverton residents and then a $25 per day for non-residents?
I think we've kept on long enough. I think everybody's tired of changing this and changing that.
And I think the issue is we don't want to encourage a couple of RVs camping out there and taking up all
No.
the space all summer long simply because they paid $25 and they just park there the whole season. So I
So
think we are
the-
trying to limit the RV, the use of the beach by RVs.
So the messages that we're getting on Facebook right now, she did ask about a season pass for RVs, right, as Bob was just saying that. And then also they said that no one's going to camp out because there's no hookups for the RVs, so they don't have access to water and sewage and all that stuff. So
They
it's
do.
very unlikely that that would happen with
Yeah.
someone in an
I mean, a
RV.
lot of them are self-contained, like Mike, I got a camp that's self-contained, I can do what they call dry camp. But if you set it up where there's no overnight parking whatsoever, and they can only be there while the beaches are open, that would eliminate a lot of the problem.
But
So
we don't kick cars
Really
out
just-
when the beach closes.
So-
Yeah.
There's no overnight parking and stuff, you know what I'm saying?
take it right out of there altogether and just put it up where Tiverton residents of the season pass $10 for the car, and Tiverton resident RV, $25.
Yeah.
So can I throw out a just a slightly contrary idea here? And Grinnell's doesn't really have room for RVs. I mean, you can only park an RV at Grinnell's if you have a like small one that's going to fit in the little spaces, because we don't.
This is more for Fogland than it is
Right.
Grinnell's.
But I will say this, we've had people in the past, Tiverton residents, who have asked about and willing to pay, but the ability to have a small number of RVs that could stay overnight, and not for an unlimited period of time, like, you know, for 2 nights or 3 nights. And the one potential advantage to that, if you limited it, for example, to Tiverton residents, is that, you know, Fogland is the place where we have the most trouble with vandalism. You know, that's where the drinking goes on at night, and the partying goes on at night, and the bonfires, and the bathhouse gets kicked in, and the toilet paper gets set on fire, and all that other kind of stuff. And it's really way out of the way for the Tiverton PD when they're patrolling. I mean, it's like way, you know, it's really hard. And there's a part of me that wonders, because I know people do it at South Shore and at some other places, and they seem to be nice, respectful people. I don't know, Chris might know more about it. And I don't mean a whole lot, like you could limit it and say no more than, you know, for any given weekend or whatever it is, you're only going to give. But it might mean that you would have some responsible adults down there at night, and you might actually have less vandalism. Just a thought.
So Little Compton does do it, and you would only be able to do it at Fogland. You wouldn't be able to do it at Grinnell's.
No.
But they do it so that you have to pre-register by a
Right.
certain date.
Right.
And you can only do 1 weekend at a time.
Yep.
And they're not allowed during the week at all. So it's only
Okay.
on Friday, Saturday night. You have to be out there Sunday afternoon.
Okay.
And they have a resident rate and a non-resident rate. And you have to they only allow so many spaces.
Yeah.
And there's no water, there's no sewage, there's none of that. So you have to bring your own generator and your own water. And what you bring in, you take out. And you're
That's
right.
the way they run it at Little Compton down on South Shore.
Yeah.
Right.
It does keep the vandalism down quite a bit. So
It's just a thought. I mean, that same sort of program, it isn't like something you can pull up and get a pass for. You'd have to apply and
right.
get pre-approved, and you know,
It'd be designated spaces.
designated spaces, and you only give out so many passes per weekend. But it might help with the vandalism down there. Just
You'd want it away from that neighborhood. So it'd have to be probably at the other end of the beach, but.
So what's the recommendation here? Because I'd love to get something
I
down.
think you hold off on that RV thing, and because that's got more thought to it. If you have to register and think about where the spaces are, I think we should get our rates in, and let's get the rates booked, and then deal with the RV thing separately.
although, I mean, you might need a rate. Are you gonna, I mean, for somebody who comes in an RV who wants to park for the day, they just want to come for the day, you might need a rate for them. I mean,
We do. We had a rate for
Yeah.
them. It's $25.
Yeah, I'd recommend that you go right back to what we had a few minutes ago before we started
Yeah.
a lengthy RV discussion. I
Yeah.
feel like we had a pretty good fee structure there.
was
There
really
certainly could be discussion future about a RV season pass if we want to talk about that more. But I think we're making it very complicated, and we're getting further away from our goal.
Agreed.
I would agree with that. I do think we'll make a note, and Dana, if you can note something in the minutes, that we'll have a discussion about RV parking structure later, because I think there's a lot of merit to giving people some access to it. But I also hear everybody else that we've gone for quite a while on this particular topic. Thank you, everybody, for contributing and for being able to bring some different viewpoints on this. I think it's good. So at this particular point, and there will be one more opportunity just to chime in with last thoughts, but could I entertain a motion to recommend this pricing structure as outlined to the town council?
I'll make a motion.
Before you finish, you still need the weekend holiday on the RV. So I don't know if it's the same rate.
We're missing a box. Yep.
Copy and paste.
Now you can take the motion.
There we go.
Okay. So to adopt and recommend the rates as listed to the town council.
I'll make the motion that we recommend these rates to the town council.
Thank you, Bob. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
All right, I heard Chris with a second first. All in favor, please raise your hand.
I can't raise my hand.
Ed is
Ed, Ed, keep your hands on the wheel.
He's raising his hand for Ed.
Ed
My
is
hand's on my
raising
wheel.
his
And
hand.
then two, Ed.
The unanimous for that. So I, excellent, thank you all.
Dana, this is for the 5 and 10.
Ed, put your hand down. We don't care.
Councilor Hilton, I want to thank you for for jumping on and giving feedback as well. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, so moving on with our agenda, discussion regarding viability of summer and fall events. I don't know that we need to have an incredibly long discussion at this point. I just wanted to put on everybody's radar that as we move into or out of summer and looking at the things that we're going to be doing, whether it's trunk or treat or the holiday tree lighting, we need to figure out what our plans are going to look like. I do think that we may need to wait a little bit until the FTR concludes before we can move forward with some of those. But I did want to just put it on the agenda for right now to see if anybody had any general thoughts on events, things we should be doing, things that we should be aware of. So open discussion.
I think it's hard to even think about that right now because we have no idea what is going to be happening at the time. Like we still might be in events that are less than 50 people, but we don't really know. So I don't even know if it's something we can discuss right now. That's just my personal
Yep.
opinion.
Yeah, my thought is with the number of people we have typically had come through for trunk or treat, I cannot see that going forward this year as we've done it in the past.
One thing I'd like to bring up, I noticed that somebody placed this on Facebook, was on the Tiverton Police webpage, was having a movie night. But this is something we can do basically in your car, like a drive-in movie. My son-in-law has a projector and he's got a 100-inch screen on a stand. So we could do something like go to maybe Podden Gray or something, because it's a big area, it's an open area. We could set this up and have a movie night, but people would stay in their vehicles. So you're not, you're still within the 6 feet, the social distancing stuff. I mean, I think that's something we could think about. And again, it would be something different. It's something to bring the town together.
Yep. Agreed. Yep. Chief Jones has been a big advocate of that, and I think it's a great opportunity. I did in a very brief exchange with him say, as things go forward, there's an opportunity for us to try and support it. And I think, Bob, if you're willing, I think there's a chance for us to reconnect and maybe have you be a contact point for that. So I think as they figure out what their plan is, sounds cool. Rec's sort of standing by to help. Other thoughts or comments on events?
Well, with the trunk or treat, obviously, like Rachel said, we're not going to be able to do it the way that we normally do it, but maybe we could still, I don't know, maybe have the cars drive through and the people stand in, or I don't know, they just drive around from kid to kid, everybody's socially distanced apart and they give a treat to each kid or something.
Slingshot.
I know.
Or like a bag, maybe we could put together a bag of goodies. And we actually, people donate goodies to us and we put them all in a bag and then people will drive their kids through the line. Cause like, I don't know if anybody's aware, but the middle school is going to be doing that with their 8th grade graduation or promotion, excuse me. They're going to have them drive through and they're going to get handed a bag with their awards and their promotion paperwork. And you have to have like they have radios and you get announced like, and they put you on a list and then you go through. It's all in the works, but.
I think we have to wait and see too, because I know for my school, they asked about doing stuff like that for 8th grade graduation and they said no. So apparently it's different in different parts of the state. I don't know.
It depends on who you ask.
Right.
I think
But we just
based
got,
on-
we
Whether or
just got
not
the
you've
email
asked her to
today.
done it.
Yeah, we just got the email today advising of this. It's going to be June 9th.
Mm.
Mhm. Yeah, I think much like the beach guidelines, we'll have more information and clearer options in the future. And so for now, let's just start all individually brainstorming and figure out what we might be able to do. I love that idea, Dana. I think it's got a ton of merit. And so when we have a clearer picture, let's come up with an action plan so we can still find a way to connect people in town. I'd hate to, for no matter what it is, I think like Bob said, there are some good ways that we can still do fun stuff. So,
Yeah.
cool. Okay, any other notes before I move on to the next agenda item? Okay. Partner projects and reports from the Town Farm Renovation Committee. I just very briefly will say we're super pleased. We were able to get the grant. So a $375,000 grant from the Rhode Island DEM. Really grateful to the DEM and the review committee for their support. Thank you. The two of the members of that committee are on this call as well with Dan and Chris. Thank you guys for your help with us. And, you know, we've got work to do. We've got more money to raise. In fact, there's an AARP grant I have to submit by the 15th. So we need to raise about another, counting the grant, about $85,000, 70 in donations and 15 in grants, which I'm confident we're going to be able to do. And I'm going to get cracking. So right now we're actually just waiting on the paperwork from the state, but really excited. Looking forward to seeing this come to fruition.
Great job. Excellent job, Stu, and everybody involved.
Yeah, thank you guys. That was awesome.
Big team up. We're really, really lucky. So on the dog park committee, I know, Bob, you've been giving updates. I also had received some updates from Dave Paul, essentially saying that one of the challenges right now is that due to the restrictions on public comments, there's been a limited ability to perhaps present about the space that they're looking for with the town council. It's more related to timing than anything else. And they're also looking to potentially connect with the library board to talk about what a collaboration would be in that space. So sounds like they're trying to make progress. Like a lot of things right now, they're hitting a little bit of a wall with what's going on, but you know, knowing Dave, he'll knock down whatever walls is in front of him pretty soon. So Bob, I don't know if you have any other thoughts, or Joe.
The main thing on the dog park is that that committee stay active communicating, because there was a lull there for about 4 months, 5 months where nothing got done and people thought it was a dead deal. And it was Bob and I and David Paul that kind of got it resurrected again. So it's good if they could just, you know, either email one another and make sure, you know, there's still, you know, a lot of energy there to keep this thing going. That's the main thing, because like I said, people thought it was a dead deal and they were starting to give up on the idea. And we can still take in donations as long as, you know, we got a committee that's moving this along. Right, Bob?
Yep.
Hey, Bob, did I miss anything?
Sorry.
Did I miss anything about the dog park?
Right now, as far as I know, everything's on hold. I haven't heard anything more about the dog park at all. I think that's something. I'm off tomorrow. But then again, everything's closed. Town hall, everything's closed. Maybe I can get together with Joe tomorrow and we'll talk about it.
I know David Paul's around too, so
What's that?
David Paul is around too, so we can get, you know, something going.
Yeah, I know he's round, but is he gonna be here?
Yeah, so there is a renovation committee, Town Farm Renovation Committee tomorrow night, and I know Dave's attending. And so he and I have been in regular contact. I know that he's on top of a lot of different things. So
yeah,
good. Awesome. I have no items under new business, so I'm just going to open it up. Is there anybody that has a comment or an item that we need to address? I feel like we exerted a lot of brain power on the parking passes.
yeah. I think we exhausted ourselves on the beach fees.
Never thought I'd get so tired on the beach. All right. And with that in mind, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
All right. Can I get a second? All right, everybody raise your hands if you want to go home or stay home.
I am home.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate the time.
Good job,
night.
Stu.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Stu.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Good job, Stu.